Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a little after 3. We'll get going. I'll call the Earth Removal Committee meeting for April 8th to order, please. Thank you all for coming. Today is town meeting day as well, so we are absent microphones. Area 58 is helping us out by recording with some handheld devices for this particular meeting because it's all gone to the school. So if you can all bear with us for audio, so Ashley can make sure she hears everything that's going on. We'll hold the chatter to a dull roar. And again, if you can't hear one of us, just raise your hand and ask to be whoever it is to speak up. We're used to having a microphone, so that'd be great. So with that, if everybody can just silence their cell phones. The board members will be recognized first for the working part of the meeting, and then depending on what Vice Chair Shores wants to do, he can go from that way. My typical rule is 2 minutes, and the board first and audience members second. Just again, keep your comments to yourselves and keep the chatter down without the AV that's typically here. Area 58, you are recording, so thank you very much. Really appreciate your presence. And I know we have one other person recording. Catherine? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else recording today? Perfect. And when you come up to speak, if you could just sign the attendance sheet prior to speaking, please. That way there, it just makes it a little bit easier for Ashley to just check her spelling on names and such. With that, we'll move into the business section here, and we'll start with the approval or discussion on minutes from the 11th of March. So can I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting, March 11th, as written.
So Judy's first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike, second. Thank you. Any discussion? I, for one, Ashley, am very grateful of how detailed the minutes are and how prompt you are in getting them to us. So thank you for that. I didn't see anything that I wanted to change in the segment that I was here for.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else have anything about the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We are 5-0. All right, next meeting date, potential meeting date, May the 6th at 3 o'clock. Board members, we have any discussion about May the 6th, 3 o'clock?
That works for me. Works for me.
That's fine.
Okay. John? There you go.
Works for me.
Okay. So Jen will set the next meeting for May the 6th at 3 o'clock right here in meeting room 1. As always, if the select board, they certainly trump us, so if we need to move, we'll make that announcement later on. Site visits. It was something we've been doing for a long time now. I've been a little bit remiss with all that's been going on, that we haven't done any true site visits on the active permits. Judy reminded me of that last meeting, thankfully. So I've got 2 potential meeting dates, the Saturday mornings of the 12th of April and or the 26th. I'm available both those days. That's why those dates are there. It's totally up to you guys. And then what I'd like to do is have you guys tell me which sites you'd like to visit. And it can be one site visit day, or it can be 2. It's totally up to you guys.
I'll suggest if we're going to take the time, we ought to visit a couple. And I default to those that are the most due for one.
Okay.
I'm good with either date.
Okay. Okay. So we thinking one date or 2? Think we can do the one date this month, and then we'll do another date next month?
One date, 2 visits.
One date, 2 visits? Work?
I'm not available this 12th or the 26th, but I can do the May ones.
Okay. Are you available another date in April?
probably the 28th, but that's a Monday.
Oh,
Um,
so you have one available
No, that's
day?
fine, as long as the majority of the board can get out to see the sites. It's kind of like, it's something we have to do, so it's better to have most than if we can't have all there.
Okay. Kind of nice to have you there, but if your schedule won't allow for April, I certainly understand.
And I think we should see some of them, so I don't want my absentee to
Sure.
slow us down.
Well, we can do one date, we'll go the 12th, I think? If it's,
That's this Saturday.
is there,
Yes,
thank you.
no problem. That's why, like, the days are just,
It just ticks by, and if we let it go, we'll be sitting in the same spot in May. So is the 12th good for everybody?
Should be able to do the 12th if it's early.
Okay.
Regular time.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock? All right, where would you like to go? The one thing I would suggest we do is go see the western site over at Plymouth Street.
Yeah.
We've had some issues there, obviously. Somebody else want to pick the next one?
What's the Cedar Meadow on Ward Street? I don't think I've ever done that.
It's an inactive permit. He applied for it back in '21. He sent us a letter and asked to keep it going last year. And there's no activity there at all.
Okay.
You want to do Pontiff on Tremont? That work?
Go back to the big one, yeah.
And that way there we can see what's been going on since we granted him the cutting on the stage 2. Do that?
Yep.
Do you think we should visit the other site that's been inactive just to see how things are going? Because they say it's inactive, but,
So I'm his neighbor,
okay,
and there is literally nothing to see. Woods.
very good.
Yeah, so it's really it's just a cranberry farm, and he's applied for it and just hasn't done anything.
Okay.
We can go.
No,
But-
I trust you.
Yeah,
Like living next to the police station.
exactly right. Okay, so we'll do Pontiff on Tremont Street second.
So which date do you want to do, the 12th? or-
We'll do the 12th at 8 o'clock at Weston, and then we'll do 9 o'clock at Pontiff. At Federal Furnace. That work for everybody?
104 Tremont.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right, in the essence of time, we did, at our very last meeting, talk about a hard stop today at 5:30. So regardless of where the discussion is, at 5:30, it will be an adjournment. That way there, what's about to happen now is we'll talk to all the permit holders that their permits have expired or are about to expire. We'll give each of them 5 minutes. We'll talk about a few things that will be synonymous with all of them going forward. But then you guys can get to the larger agenda item that's on the bottom, and I know we have a lot of residents here to discuss. So if we can start with the Makepeace, permit number 97. Mr. Madden, I see you.
I'm just going to recuse myself, Mr. Chair, for this discussion.
Thank you very much. Bill, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for coming in.
More than welcome. Thanks for having me.
So we have an AD Makepeace permit number 97 that was issued on August the 1st of 2019. We, the board, are in receipt of a letter from you that said nothing's been happening since the middle of last summer in 2024. Thank you for that. So what I'm looking for is to have you tell us when is a good time in the near future that we can have an as-built plan and a pit closure discussion.
Okay. As you said, the activity at the site had ceased back in June of 2024. No material has been taken out of that area since that time. You know, we have done some of the as-built. I don't think we've completed it all. At least I haven't reviewed all of it yet.
Okay.
But I think, I don't know what your desire is to receive the closure plans and the as-bills at the completion, for the completion of the project. But I'm pretty certain that I could have them available for the next meeting, for your
Beautiful.
next meeting, if that's convenient for you.
That'll be perfect.
Okay.
The permit has been expired for a bit now, so the sooner we can get these in a methodical order, and that's why we're kind of all here today.
Okay.
So we can talk about not jamming people up and doing that. So if we can have you in on May 6th with an as-built and the pit closure form and any other information that we typically have, what would be final tallies, make sure we've been paid, that type of stuff.
Okay.
And then come out and visit.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't
We
catch.
can come out and visit the
Do a final
property
visit.
after.
So what'll happen is, how I perceive this to be happening is that you guys, you'll come in on the 6th, we'll listen to you, we'll hear you, we'll go out and see the site after that, and then we'll close it in June. Make sense?
Perfect sense, yeah. It's
To the
fine.
board as well? That way we'll have a set of plans that we can look at while we're on site, seeing the site visit, and then we can have the final closure at that point in June.
So we'll have a meeting in May and a meeting in June to
Correct.
kind of wrap things up.
Exactly.
For that particular permit.
Yep.
Okay.
The one other thing I want, and I'm certain that you are aware of it, permit number 100 was issued in July of 2020. So you're not there yet, but we're creeping up on getting close to 5 years. So we'll want to do the same thing at that point as well with that permit 100.
Are you going to plan to have a similar type of meeting such
Bingo.
as this, just a repeat performance for that particular permit?
You just happen to be the first one through the wall here, so you're getting a little bit more than everybody else
All
that's
right.
present is gonna get. They're all hearing what we're gonna be looking for. So yes, when it comes to that time, when that permit is closed as of July,
Yep.
we'll look to have an as-built put on that and a pit closure, and the same scenario will go forward.
Okay, that sounds good.
I have a question on
Yes, sir.
number 97.
Yes.
Is that the Hammond Street?
That's the Hammond Street Reservoir, yes.
And the pond is all complete?
The pond is complete.
And do you have a pump house and everything going?
There is a pump house located at that reservoir, yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions from the board about the 80 Makepeace number 97 or, in pit 100, permit 100? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Okay, very good.
Really
Thanks very
appreciate
much
it, Bill.
For your time, appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Opachinsky, you're next.
Yes, sir.
Look at you, good man. And John is coming back in. Thank you, John. So we have permit number 71 for you, Peter.
Yes.
And that one was issued on July the 11th of 2018. Same questions that I just asked Mr. Madden. As-built, yardage, stuff like that. When
Okay.
can you be ready?
I'd like a waiver on the as-built drawings, since it's under the control of the planning board and all the lots have been sold with an improved subdivision. So as they build out the buildings, I'm sure they're getting occupancy permits and as-bills from the engineers that designed those sites.
Okay,
So it'd just be a duplication of effort, which is, there's no active removal on the Carver side right now. We are
Okay.
done.
okay,
My intent would be to give you the closeout form at the next meeting. We had some miscellaneous activity, I believe, in the first quarter
okay.
that we are in the process of compiling.
Okay.
And
So in the essence of fairness, what I through the board too, of course, I'd like to see those planning board plans. That if you've got those, you can give us that so we can see.
For each individual lot,
All we need is some sort of an as-built. Unless the board says that they'd like to grant them a waiver on the as-built on those.
I mean, I'd have to go to the people that have bought the individual lots and try to get plans from them, because it
Okay.
doesn't resemble what we started out with,
Okay.
you know, when the
Jen,
permit
is that
was
something
issued.
that your office has?
Yeah, I think I can get that from
Okay.
our files.
Okay, so
Yeah, that's why I was asking for the waiver.
we'll get those, we'll review them as a group, individually, of course, but we'll all see those. We'll do the same thing, yardage-wise.
Yep,
Obviously.
that'll all be tallied out, everything's right where it should be.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna need a pit closure form, like we just talked about. And
This one
then-
here? I came armed with this one this
Hey,
time.
see, good man. So what we may want to do then, board, is if we accept that pit closure form today, Jen can get us the as-bills from the pad sites from the planning department.
I have to fill this out once I tally the first quarter out. So it'll
What
be
we
the next
may
meeting.
want to do then is make that a site visit for the 12th.
Yeah. In North Carolina. Sounds appropriate.
Does that sound right?
You want to add it to the list, or?
I do, I want to add that to the site visit list.
Yeah, I think that'll be helpful as well as to whether we need final plans.
Exactly.
To take a look at, because this isn't a typical ag project.
It's not a typical project, of course.
Right.
Jen can get us the plans in the next couple of days before this Saturday's site visit. Get those disseminated out, and then we can go take a look. So why don't we schedule?
May I suggest we rearrange the times?
Yep, absolutely.
Start from north to south, or south to north.
You want to start there, 8 o'clock?
Start there at 8.
That's fine. I can't be there, but I'll have someone there.
Okay.
And that would put us at Weston's for 9 a.m.
You think 9, or you want to, yeah, let's say 9.
and Pontiff for 10.
Yep. Work for everybody?
I have a question.
We have a question, I'm sorry?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, there's a lot of activity over there, the machines are running, filtering sand through machines, and, you know, trucks coming in and out, so I don't understand what's going on.
And that's exactly what we're gonna go see.
Okay, thank
If he's
you.
saying that there's no materials left to site, we'll go see. If it's a building pad site, we'll get the stuff from planning, and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
You can see it right from the highway.
Well, we're gonna be closer to that, so thank you.
Yes, that's on the Plimpton side, which she's referring to. Plus,
Okay.
we have ongoing construction on 2 buildings.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the idea of us asking about it and going out and taking a peek.
But you were supposed to be only storing.
Hold on, so
in Plimpton.
don't talk to him directly. So
Okay,
thank
they
you.
were just supposed to be storing that on Plimpton, that's what I know.
Okay.
So there's
With-
activity,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So we'll talk about that with your representative that's out there on Saturday,
Okay.
how that goes. So then what we'll do is, we'll have you back in next month on the 6th.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
All set?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I have anybody from the Rhodes family here? I'm sorry?
I was just wondering if you signed in.
Oh. Peter, could you sign the sign-in sheet for me if you would, please? Did you?
Thank you.
You're the best. Jared? Thank you, sir, didn't see you there.
I like it that way.
Okay, so you've heard now twice what we're looking for. Your permit was issued on the 19th of December in 2019. You guys are, I'm assuming, closed out, and your as-built is in process, I'm hoping?
Yeah, the as-built is scheduled, well, the survey for the as-built is scheduled to be done the week of May 5th.
Okay,
Everything, all removal stopped February 27th,
Thank you.
and everything, all the fees have been paid.
Perfect.
Um,
So when do you think you want to come back in front of us? May is getting a little bit busy, so you want
I
to
would
shoot
think,
for the June meeting?
yeah, because they're doing it the week of May 5th, so I don't think I'd have it for
No.
the 6th. So,
I would presume not. So let's look at the June meeting for you guys to come in with your pit closure, with all your yardage tallies, all your payment information and such, and the pit closure form filled out for the June meeting.
And then we'll come out and visit the site
yep,
in July.
Yep.
Or in June, maybe.
That work for you?
that works for me.
All right, my man, well, thank you so much for coming today.
All right,
I really,
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the last but not least, Mr. Johnson, are you here? Hey, Ben.
Am I supposed to sign in here?
Yes.
Yeah, if you would, please. So you've heard the drill from the other groups. You've been at it since 2015 on one permit and 2017 on another permit. They were both issued then. As-bills, site visits, stuff like that. Think you can be ready for us by June?
I think so.
Okay.
I've been in contact with my engineer, and I know I'm on the list for them to get out there and do the as-built.
Okay.
Well, I get two.
Yep.
Talking about both of them?
Yep, we've got one that was issued on
58.
September the 11th of 2015, permit number 58.
Yes, that's.
And then you've got another one
So
that,
that one is done.
okay,
All I have to do is seed
yep,
a slope, weather permitting, and the other one is just gonna just continue on at my own pace with the agricultural
okay.
work.
So any as-built on the same thing, you've got a permit for a certain amount of yardage when you did that in 2017.
Right,
So you can split it up, how much went on your property, how much went out the door type of thing, how much you paid us for.
right,
Get us an as-built, and then agriculturally, after you've closed out with us, you are good.
yep,
Okay? So we'll have you back in June. Same, pit closure forms, as-built, record of payment, stuff like that. And then we'll go out in July, just like Mike said to Jared, and then we'll have you back in July. And we will get all these closed out.
what was my permits, 58 and
92.
92?
Yep. Yep.
Are you removing any sand from the properties at this point?
Only for the cranberry bogs. That's about it. All set?
Thank you very much, Van, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
What site is he removing the sand from?
we'll get to that when we get there. If it's agricultural, it's on him. Not part of the permit process. We're gonna close out, he's been running an agricultural permit and a commercial one in tandem. Works out just fine.
Okay, so a commercial and an agricultural.
It's the same, yep,
At the same site?
correct. Absolutely.
One site's at the one end of the
He has two
property,
sites.
and the other
Right.
site is at the
So where,
farmhouse.
what site is that?
What we're gonna do is, he's gonna come in June. We're gonna go out in the June time. We'll look at it and we'll talk about it then.
We don't know the address. So
I do know the address.
the public isn't allowed to know where.
This is a working meeting for us. We're working on getting these guys closed out, as been requested by everybody. So that's what we're doing.
It's on the agenda.
Doesn't really indicate on the agenda where it is, no.
But it gives a,
And it's our tax dollars giving all these subsidies away, so we should be.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Scott, there's also an invoice to be approved.
That was gonna be, I skipped right over it, didn't I? Because I was looking at my agenda. right, we have, moving right along, we have an invoice discussion with the potential approval for GCS Consulting for $402.50. It was on the revised agenda. Came in a couple of days ago. I'll entertain a motion.
Take it this is the group working on our record keeping.
That is correct.
I'll make the motion to approve the invoice as presented to GGS Consulting LLC.
All right,
Second that.
okay. And Roger. Any discussion on the approval of $402.50 to GCS Consulting? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you very much. All right, I have on here dusk discussion again. I've had no complaints in the last, I haven't seen anything come through in the last month. I'm hoping that SLT and Mr. Weston has got it taken care of. Town council has been a little bit tied up, so we have not had a true discussion on what we can do going forward.
As far as teeth?
As far as teeth. Okay? So that is why I put this on here right now, just to know that, let you guys know that I have not had a discussion with her about that. I was hoping she'd be here today so she can discuss it in open. And obviously, it's a very busy time for town councils.
Needs.
Right.
And we're gonna see that property this Saturday.
We are gonna see that property anyway.
Yeah. I think it's rained every day since our last meeting.
10 out of the last 11, if you believe the people on the news. All right, Judy, you are up. Number 8 was your request to talk about this regarding house lots extending into cranberry bogs.
Yes. There's been a lot of talk about acreages or house lots extending into cranberry bogs. On Route 58 going south, there was a lot of chatter about the 3 homes that were put on the corner of Lakeview and South Main Street. They look beautiful. The issue is the cranberry bogs being part of the homeowner's property, but they can't use it. So we've and then fill being put in to build up the land to put the home on.
So that falls a little bit out of our scope of work?
Correct. And doing some reading, I'm going to do some more investigation just to be sure. It's not an earth removal topic.
Right.
So it's really something that needs to be addressed elsewhere on other boards in our town. So when I did bring this up, it was a question that was brought to me, and like I said, there's been a lot of talk about homes that are incorporating cranberry bogs into their property. I mean, if I was a bog owner, I would love to look out and have a bog every day. But moving forward, it's something I have to do more homework on, so I'm done with my part of it, bringing it up to the...
Thank you. I wanted to give you your due, like I said earlier, and the one thing I may ask is that we keep it to earth removal type stuff. I did want to give you your due, though, so
Okay.
thank you very much. All right, we have a continued public hearing for the Route 44 Development LLC located off Green Parkway, formerly known as Montella Street, map 20, lot 2. The applicant is requesting a continuance until the May meeting. So that is going to be continued until May, Jen, if we could. And then with that, I am going to recuse myself from the last discussion point. Hopefully, we've left enough time to cover it completely and appropriately. Thank you all for being here. I know it's town meeting night, and it's been a little bit busy, but please give Roger and the board all the respect that you gave me. So thank you all. We will see you guys in a couple hours over at the high school.
Don't forget your water.
That would have been the second time I've done that. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
right, it's a continued public hearing for Fruit Dealer Real Estate, Mayflower Road, Carver Assessors, parcels 122-18, 122-10, 122-2, 122-4, and 5-2 as written in our agenda for today's meeting. In a bit of a quandary at this point in talking with some of the other board members, as it appears that this property was purchased as of toward the end of March here to a separate company, and I think that raises some discussion within the board as to how we handle this. We weren't able to get through and get any type of counsel on this as far as applications and whatnot go.
Good afternoon. Craig Medeiros, attorney for ADGA Realty, who is successor to Fruit Dior, the original applicant on this application. Generally, it is not atypical for a permit to be transferred between parties, whether that be pre-grant of the permit or post-grant of the permit. Obviously, it does not happen that commonly for earth removal permits, but in our particular case, there was an assignment of all rights under the earth removal permit from Fruit Dior to ADGA Realty. As indicated in my letter, which I'm going to talk to you about, ADGA Realty will be the party that signs the actual permit, provided it is granted to them, so they will be bound by all the conditions for their earth removal permit. But as they're the owner of the property of record, generally you would be able to grant a permit to them under this application. But if you do have any particular questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Please.
I personally do not feel comfortable handing out a permit to Fruit Dior, AKA ADG Realty. I feel that the applicant should come and present their own application with their own plans for this. And I know we continued the meeting from the last time for the public hearing, and so this is still a public hearing meeting. Reading over the information here, it doesn't appear that all the same specifics are going to take place.
No, it's exactly the same. We're actually utilizing the same exact plans,
Farm
which were
plans.
drawn by, well, the farm plan was done in 2023, and that doesn't pertain to the earth removal permit itself. But in terms of the permitting plans, we're utilizing the same exact plan set that was drawn by Beals and Thomas. So we're not submitting different plans. In theory, I can understand if we were changing what we were asking for, absolutely, we'd have to resubmit, come in for a new permit. But the thing that's being requested is the same exact permit that Fruit Dior started. We're requesting the same approval of the same plans that were drawn. All the particulars of the permit are still exactly the same. So to the best of my knowledge, there has been no revision in terms of what we're asking for.
One of the other things when I was looking the packet over is you have option A, B, and C.
No, so that's in the farm conservation plan. So there was a farm conservation plan done in 2023, which that farm conservation plan had 3 conceptual drawings of what could be done at the site in the future in terms of additional bogs to be created, as well as they actually proposed 3 additional irrigation reservoirs and tailwater recovery ponds, one in the rear of the property, one in the front out by the street, and the other one towards Route 58. None of those are being requested as part of this earth removal permit. What we're requesting is the same exact thing that we had requested in all of our previous meetings and is shown on the Beals and Thomas plan. I was just providing you the farm conservation plan essentially as a means to show you that the plan recognizes that we do need additional water at the site, but we're not following any terms of that farm conservation plan in terms of doing what they're requesting to be built under it. So again, nothing's changing from what we originally permitted. That farm conservation plan just showed 3 potential options for an expansion at the site. All of those options actually included the planting of additional cranberry bogs, which again, we're not proposing at this point in time. That would require additional permits, including conservation permits. The permit that we're requesting is for the Beals and Thomas plan, which was dated October 25th, 2024. which is the same exact plan that Fruit Dewey originally submitted as revised with the earth removal permit.
Well, I would like to have ADG Realty here present before us so we can ask questions.
Okay, they are here if you want me to.
Are you representing them? I'm a little confused.
I am.
Okay.
So this is Emil Taya from ADJ Realty. He actually has been at previous meetings as well. He's actually my previous client. Fruit Dewey was never actually at meetings because they're based out of Canada. But he has been here for meetings previously, and if you do have questions, feel free to ask them.
I think there were questions at the last meeting in regards to the farm plan being a different location. I think that's why we had asked for these, and it's obvious, and this is very typical of a farm plan that shows future expansion, that area you're looking to excavate has been assessed and viewed as future expansion, both with bog and or water. So I think it squashes any of the concern in regards to the farm plan and that parcel of land. This scenario A and scenario A, is that part of the original farm plan, or is that shows part of that water hole constructed?
Yeah, so
And part of it being bog?
So those three options were all part of the farm plan, which was created by the USDA. Option A involves creating essentially a 10-acre reservoir northerly of where we're located, close to Dunham Pond.
Right.
And then it actually also calls for smaller ponds to be located out towards Mayflower Road and then towards Route 58.
Yep.
Our proposal is to only create one irrigation reservoir and tailwater recovery pond, which is centrally located in the middle of the property, as opposed to requesting three separate irrigation reservoirs.
Yeah.
Particularly, the issue is we don't want to have an irrigation reservoir right on Mayflower Road, which is present in all three of these options. There would not be much of a buffer to the adjoining neighbors in terms of trees. All the trees would be taken out to create the reservoir. It would also be closer to all of their wells. The location which we've chosen is, with the exception of option A with the farther back pond, the farthest option away from abutters and neighbors in terms of activity. So that's why we chose this alternate location. Like I said, again, the purpose of the farm conservation plan was simply to show a need for water at the site, which is indicated several times in the conservation plan that the water supply is inadequate. It wasn't for necessarily showing or following the potential scenarios which are depicted in that plan, which all call for the installation of additional bog, which again, we're not doing at this point in time.
Any other questions? You guys have more questions for?
I guess my question, this page here, A, build out scenario for application of conservation credits. Is this part of the original farm plan?
It's in the farm plan.
It's in the farm
option
plan,
A,
okay.
yes.
Because that's the closest to what you're proposing.
Correct.
And a couple of these ponds, one's been expanded upon, one's been dug. And it's obvious after driving up and down Mayflower Road this winter, it still wasn't enough water to flood all the bogs over there.
Sure.
And the winter kill shows. So I think it, as far as I'm concerned, it settles the discussion that was in the air last, whether it was on part of the farm plan. There was concern in the room that it was an alternate property or something. It's all encompassed here.
I think the only other concern is the farm plan does call for the construction of a 7.5 acre pond that's 15 feet deep. But that presumes that we're going to continue utilizing Dunham Pond as a primary water source. Like I said, as part of this application, we're proposing to limit our usage of Dunham Pond only to flooding. The irrigation throughout the year will be used entirely for the tailwater recovery pond and irrigation reservoir, as well as the flow of tailwater recovery. So again, we're trying to limit Dunham Pond, which will result in additional water being needed over and above that 7.5 acres and 15 feet deep of a reservoir, which was cited in the farm plan as being needed.
Yeah. That settles that discussion. still trying to wrap my head around the transition of the property and the ownership. As far as I'm concerned, nothing's been voted on at this point. We haven't issued anything to either party. My biggest concern is of that of the neighbors. Through the process, as you know, in the public hearings, you heard a lot from the room, a lot of concerns. I think all of what I have listed, you've addressed here in your letter. There was a lot less concern from the neighbors at the last meeting. But I would ultimately default to those that live around the project and those that were concerned initially in regards to those same concerns with the new ownership.
I also have another question, back to your original application, when you turned it in with Beals and Thomas, when it was Fruit Dior. There's an area on the sheet that looks like it's possible that that could be where you take and put your new tailwater instead of so close to Dunham Pond. Why could that area be utilized? If you want, this is the original application that was put in.
Sure.
So there's this area right up here.
Okay, there is a pond up there already. But the problem is, so the 29 acres that we're taking the water from is not located adjacent to that. So currently, we're creating a water source for all the bogs towards Tremont Street on that plan.
The east more so than the west.
Correct. So you can't realistically, you'd have to pump the water all the way from those bogs across the other bogs to get up into that area that we were just pointing out. It's not located adjacent to the bogs that we're utilizing for tailwater recovery. Generally for tailwater recovery, it's good to have a source directly adjacent to the bogs from which the water is flowing. Otherwise, it would have to be pumped
Well, I was
from.
just trying to like move it farther away from the neighbors. You know, the water digging.
Correct. I don't believe there's any area that's nearly the size that we're looking to dig in that location. Like I said, we have a 10-acre parcel, and there's only a couple of acres in the location that you were just pointing out. So logistically, I just don't think it would fit. I mean, realistically, I believe we're 850 feet away from the nearest neighboring well. So it's not like we're particularly close to any wells to begin with.
Have you maintained a bond on the property?
So I've discussed this with the neighbors. What we're proposing is to put a cash escrow account of $25,000 that names 5 of the most adjacent neighbors to the project. And if it is determined that their wells do run dry or they do have property damage as a direct result of our work being done, then they'd be able to utilize that $25,000 directly to compensate them for that damage. And then if there's a claim made on that $25,000, that $25,000 escrow account would be replenished in the future if anybody else needed to utilize it. So there'd be a constant $25,000 account from which they could draw from in case there was damage to their properties.
And how much do you anticipate one well costing?
So I did discuss this with the neighbors. We had communications with West End Well Drilling regarding this. All of the wells are shallow wells, so they're less expensive than deep water wells. The range would be generally be from $5,000 to $8,000 per well. It would be very atypical for several wells to go dry, although it could happen. So this would generally cover about 3 wells if they went dry. One discussion which we did have with John Baringo from West End Drilling, which is a condition of our permit, is that it's much less likely for the wells to run dry if the property is wet mined, which is a condition of our permit. He did specifically indicate that with wet mining, it has been very rare in his opinion for wells to run dry. It does happen more commonly if the property is dry mined, and he does have a lot of experience and drills most of the shallow wells in the Carver area.
Thank you.
I also see in your letter here that applicant agrees to replenish the escrow account in order to maintain a balance of $25,000.
Correct, so if somebody's well runs dry,
In the
we pay out
instance-
$8,000, then my client would then have to pay another $8,000 to the escrow account, keep it at $25,000. So presumably, unless there's some sort of catastrophe where several wells go dry all at once, it should be more than sufficient to cover any damage to the neighbors.
I don't know, we've been over this a bunch. We've listened to the concerns, we've addressed the concerns. I don't personally have a lot of concern with the project itself. My biggest concern is just the perception with the ownership change and just the respect to the neighbors. You mentioned, you heard Chair Handula mention what teeth do we have? And our bylaw as it stands, we're finding out, might not necessarily give us all that much teeth. So through the order of conditions, I think this committee has been leaning towards putting some teeth directly in the order of conditions. And I was hopeful that town council would be here. I'm not an attorney, and I think it's important that this committee look over these order of conditions that we've drafted. And, but I don't know that I could bring myself to vote on these this evening without legal opinion.
I agree with you.
Just,
Yeah,
it
one
just
thing which
goes
I-
to show, this is why we don't do handshake agreements with anybody. The properties can change like that. So I think it's important for the community that we have all these in hand, in writing, and vetted through our town council. That's really my only concern, aside from that any of the neighbors or residents of the town might have.
I mean, I did proactively reach out to the neighbors in this particular case. I do have copies of your previous conditions, which I tried to expand on those. Usually you have like 10 or 12 conditions. I got up to 18. One of the more important ones for the neighbors, which I believe addresses your concern, but you should have town council look at it, obviously, was condition number 16 in the letter which I drafted, which specifically indicates that the applicant has a responsibility for the effects of the proposed work, including potential damage to neighboring property, which includes direct effects of dust, and shall power wash homes and property and perform other reasonable remediation to neighboring properties caused by the project. So again, I did try to address the neighbors' concerns more than previous permits have. By having that as a condition in your permit, you should be able to enforce that and then stop the project if the conditions are violated. It's not something that is totally reliant upon your bylaw. I mean, if you do have other concerns, or the neighbors have other concerns, I'd be happy to address them. But I did try to work properly with them. We talked about the escrow account for $25,000. We talked about the damage paragraph. So, I mean, you can hear from the neighbors, but I believe we adequately addressed their concerns at least. But I'd be happy to hear from them, so.
Yeah. I just, from what I understand from a legal standpoint, it sounds like we need to put actual penalties and fines and numbers in this order of conditions.
I'm not sure that we can do that.
And we're not sure if we can do that.
I don't think you can rely upon your bylaw, like you said, but if
Right.
you have a specific condition in a permit, usually you can put a time frame by which that would need to be rectified, and if not, you could, in theory, declare a default of that permit and stop the work at that point in time. But
I'd like to defer to town council
Yeah, I just,
before we take it up for a vote.
yeah, I'm feeling comfortable with the project, and if there's any concerns from the neighbors, I'd certainly like to hear them, Vice Chair. But I'm not comfortable voting on this without council's review.
And the public meeting is still open, so if there's any residents here that, you know, after being at the last meeting and seeing what's going on tonight, if you have any questions that you want to bring up, seeing that it's still a public meeting.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
it's okay.
that's fine, I don't see anybody open.
But
If you want to come up and speak, you
We
need
got
to sign in,
non-residents.
please.
Is this all specific to this here?
It's all,
To this-
we're
to
just
this
talking
hearing?
about this
We're
application.
only talking about this application, Mayflower Road. We're not looking to open this up for further discussion beyond this permit here.
It relates to things that I hope would be in effect for the next permit granted
Okay,
by the
then that's
town.
fine.
My name is Gail DeTomaso. I live at 2C Meadowbrook Road in Carver. I've been coming to these meetings for a while, and I just want to summarize the things that I'd like or suggest to the board that they seriously consider putting in their permit, the next permit issue. And the primary one was to enforce what is written in the bylaw, that the permit holder, the large permit holders, are responsible for monitoring. That includes truck count.
They do, they have to turn in a
That
tally
is, and they
sheet.
have tally sheets.
And we've also been advised by council, trying to get cameras on private property is not a road we want to go down. It's
Doesn't this,
infringement,
So we don't have a good solution, good technical solution.
no.
so
Putting
what was
cameras
done
isn't
at the
one.
Pontiff?
That's their cameras, those aren't ours. Those are their cameras.
They've offered to supply us with that data, but they don't necessarily
So
have.
unless we were able to go in with a third-party camera that only us could go in, it's gonna be no fair level of governance as far as anybody else is concerned.
And that's not something the town wants to do?
And what we can tell from
Legally.
as-bills and things like Chairman Haniel is doing, is find out how much earth was actually extracted. We can start to come in and make sure that at the end of the projects, at least we're double checking.
Well, what about the way to distinguish between agricultural and commercial sand mining? Where that sand is going? That's part of the monitoring, I would think.
It's supposed to be, if it's agricultural, it's supposed to be moved to another agricultural site.
But how do you monitor that?
Unfortunately, without eyes in the skies and knowing, and we're hoping people are a little bit honest and, you know.
They're still
let us
relegated to
know.
truck counts and public
There's-
safety.
Right, exactly, the public safety part is still
So-
being monitored, and that's our concern. Unfortunately, some things are just outside of our jurisdiction.
Through this project, do you guys plan on moving any of this sand to another site for agricultural use?
At this time, we don't have any plans for that.
I mean, legally, they can.
If we have
What?
times for sanding.
It's a lot cleaner if that material stays on the site regardless of its end use.
And for us, reduction in cost and fuel, paying for the transportation is expensive.
I had also talked about a prevalence be given to permit holders who could allocate a certain percentage of the sand for local growers.
Also, something legal told us not to go down. Can't dictate where the material goes. It's a free trade world. It's
So the town council has been working with you.
a little bit throughout the years since I've been on the committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't, you know, you
And
can't
you're
tell
close-
Walmart they can only sell to X people.
That it's not an agricultural business, if they're removing it
No,
and
we're still
selling it.
growing.
No, they're selling the material
Project is
commercially.
agricultural.
The project end
How is
use is
that?
The
agricultural
end
because
use
they're
is
making a
Well,
water
where's the
source.
documentation saying so?
Chapter 61 is.
They're farmers.
Yeah, but it's not chapter 61A, you're selling your material.
It's
That-
Please.
Gail, do you have any other questions in
I'm
regards
just
to?
filling in. I'll leave as soon as I finish.
Commercial
We were
trade.
talking about conditions on permits.
I You've addressed everyone I've stated
Okay.
as not being viable by the town council.
Correct.
If you feel any type of public safety issue comes upon when any of these permits are active, please reach out to the board. We have an email address. You can email your concerns. Somebody will come and address it.
Or you can call town and speak to the selectmen's board and tell them your issues.
Cranberry growers,
And they'll get to us that day.
Cranberry growers are also required to file a notice of intent for any material that goes out over the road for agricultural use, as per our bylaw, which Chair Hannuler has enacted, and the Growers Association has sent paperwork out for growers to fill out and give to Town Hall for any agricultural exempt activity over the road to help us differentiate when we get complaints. Why are these trucks moving? Well, here we have documentation that this cranberry company said they're gonna move this material from A to B.
And you get that beforehand? Before the material
We're
is moved.
supposed to get that beforehand from the growers, yep.
So did you get one from Hasiotis when they've been
We-
transporting
they
sand
don't
this
have a
week to
permit.
Clinton?
I haven't been to the clerk's office to assess every form that's come in.
Is there some way, is that public record?
I'm sure it is. So,
That will be in our orders of condition to make sure that they give us their tally sheets. And there's always a cap on how many trucks can go off that property a day. And we ask them in good faith for a yearly cranberry bog earth removal notification. So that, again, like John said, to let us know what activity is going on, so when a resident does call with a concern, at least we'll have an answer for them. We're trying to,
We're asking for that, though. They're not required to do it, but we ask that they do it.
it's how to make the laws. We can make bylaws, but we can't make laws.
that was something that wasn't being governed prior. That is part of our bylaw that we've enacted more recently.
Well, it has been talked about on many occasions, so we brought it up many times, so.
Okay, well, a lot of us are
Anyway,
new to
I
this
think
board.
Somebody
and-
else wants to talk.
Could you also sign in, please?
Oh,
Because
okay.
you've spoken on the subject. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So we're going to keep the public hearing open until we get some information in regard to the permitting
Can I put in my address?
until the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes. This is in regards to Mayflower Road?
That's correct. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Catherine Harrelson, and I work for Community Land and Water Coalition, which is a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. And I'm going to speak tonight on the application of, this is for Fruit Door Real Estate, Mayflower Road. Carver's assessors parcels 122, 18, 10, 2, 4, and 5-2. I have 3 points to make tonight. The first two in regard to the supplemental information provided by the applicant on April 1st, 2025.
I know, we don't have a microphone.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll try to speak up, okay. The first 2 points are in regard to the supplemental information provided by the applicant on April 1st, 2025. I want to address changes in the current state of the application versus the original state of the application. The applicant states in the latest correspondence that I'm going to call it just not currently accurate assessors maps and parcels were utilized in the initial application and notice to abutters. This is referenced on page 2 of their communication, first and second paragraphs. They've had to adjust the actual parcel IDs on their new application based on the reconfiguration of the truck delivery road. So therefore, the parcel IDs that were on the notice to abutters are not currently correct as far as what the project is now. Also, additionally, the notice to abutters included the prior applicant, Fruit Door Real Estate, which is now going to be different than the actual applicant and owner of the project. So the notice to abutters is procedurally incorrect on 2 points, and so I'd like to bring that up as a sort of point of contention for the application of this project that we'd like to see addressed in some way by the ERC. The second point that I'm going to make in regards to the supplemental information provided by the applicant is that on page 3 out of 5, they do confirm everything that I said during the last ERC hearing, that the farm plan provided by the applicant does not in any way, shape, or form show this agricultural reservoir. They showed 3 different options, option A, option B, and option C, for potential agricultural reservoirs on the subject property, none of which actually correspond to this agricultural reservoir. As they reiterate in our communication on April 1st, the farm plan recommends an agricultural reservoir of 5 to 7 acres for the amount of active cranberry bogs and additional calculations for water credits that they have on site. The USDA is saying that they need an agricultural reservoir of 5 to 7 acres. Now, the applicant specified that this was before they decided to reduce water withdrawals from Dunham Pond. However, there's no actual documentation, enforcement, or permits for how much they're going to reduce their water withdrawals from Dunham Pond. They currently have 9 Water Management Act permits, including Dunham Pond. So in no way, shape, or form is it any way sort of enforceable or measurable how much they're going to reduce water withdrawals from Dunham Pond. And as we know, rainfalls are extremely erratic. We've had heavy rainfall this year, but last year the rainfall was less. So in the future, I think it's plausible that they're going to continue drawing water from Dunham Pond at levels that are comparable to what they're doing now. And then in addition, they're asking for this additional water source. So I'm going to reiterate that this particular water source is in no way, shape, or form approved by the USDA. And in fact, the last time they communicated with the USDA, they recommended something a lot smaller, 5 to 7 acres, as opposed to what they're applying for today, which is 10.5 acres. And I'm going to reiterate that this location was never reviewed by the USDA as far as their application. I'm going to bring this up because we have brought this information in an application for a request for determination of applicability for the Carver Conservation Commission. We believe that this is an important point in their application, and we've asked for the Conservation Commission to review whether or not this project requires a notice of intent. And I just want to point on the record that they're going to be discussing that next week. So I'd like to take that into consideration, please. The third point that I'm going to make is in regards to the soil groundwater report that was submitted at the last meeting by the applicant. The soil groundwater report that was submitted by the applicant is not a hydrology report. It is a basic soil boring log report. So in the report, they described how on May 3rd, 2025, they went out and did 3 test pits. And they provide the soil logs for those test pits and a narrative with some basic monitoring well information. So the first point I'd like to make is that this is a basic soil boring report with some basic information about soil and monitoring well installation. This is not a hydrology report or an assessment of impacts to groundwater levels at the site and the surrounding area from the proposed alteration of existing conditions. Now, as a basic soil boring report, this report is lacking in some very basic information. The report does not provide boring logs or monitoring well completion reports for the wells that are installed. It does not provide a diagram showing monitoring well elevations, top and bottom, and screened interval with comparison to the observed soil horizon. So this is something that we've all seen. It's just a very basic soil boring log and monitoring well installation where you have a diagram of the monitoring well next to the soil horizons. This information allows readers and observers to determine the depth of the well in relation to the depth of the boring, whether it allows the users to see fluctuations in the water levels that were observed in regards to the screen interval of the well, and it allows readers and users to determine whether or not the screen interval were put in the most conducive soil horizon for groundwater flow. No information on the pumps that were used, the equipment used to measure the water levels, or the type of rig or other equipment used to advance the soil borings was provided in the report. There's no information about whether or not the wells were developed prior to measuring the depth of water. There's no description of any monitoring well development data provided in this report. And finally, the second round of water table elevations was taken 4 days after the monitoring well installation. Again, no information about whether the wells were developed or not. I understand that these are highly conductive soils, but basic just quality procedures in Massachusetts for monitoring well installation involve a second round of water levels a week after the initial installation. That allows time for the water level to stabilize after the initial well installation. Now, secondly, this is not a hydrology report. It's a report of test pit soil profiles and water levels. So my point is that this report doesn't address any of the following. It doesn't address the direction of groundwater flow through triangulation of the 3 water levels. Not only is this not addressed, but it's not possible because test point 3 was dry during the entire event. There's no water level data available for test pit 3. So it's not possible to determine the direction of groundwater flow based on this report. This report doesn't have any pump tests or response to water levels from pumping, which would be necessary to determine the responses of the water table to sudden changes in water volume, such as during the extraction of 640,000 cubic yards of sand, or the pumping of this irrigation pond for irrigation purposes. This report doesn't describe fluctuations in seasonal water level. And one point I'd like to make is that this report does not provide any data on water quality whatsoever. Basic information such as pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, conductivity and turbidity and oxidation reduction potential are important water quality characteristics. This is not only important for the water quality in the site, but this is very helpful information to surrounding private well users about the water quality that's flowing into their wells. I mean, pH has to do with corrosivity. Turbidity and oxidation and conductivity have to do with the potential presence of heavy metals in the water. Changes in these very basic water quality characteristics can indicate a change in potential contaminant loading in the water.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Concom get all this information?
I can't answer for them, but they did get a copy. I'm aware that they have a copy of the report.
Because that's something more that would be pertinent to their part of the.
Yeah, I understand. However, I believe that this report is provided to the ERC as a way to evaluate whether there's a potential to impact residential monitoring wells from this project. I'll sum up by saying that this report did indicate that there are 3 residential monitoring wells in the vicinity of this project, but provide no information about the distance from those residential private wells to these test pits that they took, or whether there's a potential for impact on those wells. So I'd like to thank you for providing me the opportunity to comment on this project, and I'm going to ask the ERC to consider further study on this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, just quickly to address those 3 issues. In terms of the maps and lots listed on the application, those were revised. They were revised at the request of the ERC. Our original application had an alternate access route and haul route, which is now not being utilized at the request to relocate that access closer to Route 58. So yes, it does impact the assessors maps and lots listed. That being said, I can double check. I do not believe it affects any abutters which would be notified as part of this application. If it did, it may have an effect, but I'll double check to make sure the abutters list did not change in theory.
That'd be fair.
In terms of the farm conservation plan, the actual recommendation was for a 7.5 acre irrigation reservoir. Like I said, we have a 10-acre reservoir. If you do want to have some teeth, again, in your permit to limit our usage of Dunham Pond, we can certainly include that as a condition of the permit, that to the extent applicable, we'll use all of our irrigation needs and tailwater recovery needs for this new irrigation pond for the bogs which are adjacent to it instead of Dunham Pond. Again, we indicated previously that for flooding purposes, we still need to utilize Dunham Pond, and for emergency purposes, but for irrigation and tailwater recovery purposes, we do not need to utilize that. So you can include that in your condition to your permit to, again, limit that usage. In terms of the third item, which are the monitoring wells, yes, almost with any earth removal project, there is the potential for impact to neighboring wells. We're not disputing that. We agreed to wet mining as a condition of this. The neighboring wells are 850 feet away. We're establishing an escrow account to compensate the neighbors for potential impacts to their wells. Is it possible that the well could be affected? Absolutely. I'm sure you could find a very detailed hydrological report that would say that. But again, we're doing everything we can to compensate the neighbors and help them in case that their wells do run dry as a result of our project. So again, I mean, we could spend a lot of money and time for hydrological reports, but again, there is a possibility that the neighbors' wells are going to be impacted. We're not disputing that fact, so I don't see how that's necessarily. It should be a condition of this permit. The neighbors do recognize that. We've talked to them about that, and I believe they're fine with the compromise that we've had in terms of an escrow account and potential conditions in our permit that the board's considering. So, thank you.
Thank you. You know, in the terms of conditions presented here, 3 monitoring wells, 1 well to be located in each phase of the project for the duration of the project, and then quarterly monitoring. That's above and beyond any permit we've issued. Again, I'm comfortable with this project. My biggest concern is just the transparency of ownership with the neighbors. Would it be feasible to send out another round of abutters notices with the new applicant's name and the correct parcels in time for next month's meeting?
I can do that.
That would be my suggestion, Mr. Vice Chair. Otherwise,
I have one more question. Does the new owners need and require a new farm plan?
The farm plan is not required for an earth removal.
Well, I'm just talking about in general.
they get updated, they stay with the property, and then they go through an updating process through NRCS.
Well, they get updated, but generally speaking, when there's new ownership, things change on the property. So would they require a new farm plan?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
Is there any requirements for it?
No, there isn't. There isn't. The state was renewing these at about one a year. So there's a new initiative and a grant to get farm plans updated on a faster rate. And
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
yeah, yeah.
I'm aware of farm plans.
Okay. Well, I'll let you
So I'm
answer
just
all the
wondering if
questions.
it's a new owner, do we need a new farm plan?
You don't need a farm plan.
But if they're gonna be using the USDA, NRCS, whatever, they need to get a farm plan, right?
They need to use them to update their farm plan, but
Or
they
to
don't
get,
need one.
Right.
to get grants.
To get grant, you don't need a farm plan.
You don't have to have a farm plan. It's not a requirement of the USDA.
No. Anybody else?
Yes.
I just have a clarifying question. I may have not followed this, but
Can you announce yourself and say?
Rachel Atkins, I'm with the Community Land and Water Coalition. I'm just curious if I heard that correctly. So neighbors are fine if their wells go dry to have bottled water or what? That was sort of surprising to me that the neighbors recognized that their wells might be affected and they were okay with getting compensated for that. Is compensation like bottled water to take a bath or?
The money would
There's
be
an
utilized to
escrow.
drill a new well, so they would have water.
And so there's assumption if their well goes dry, they can just build another one and there'll be water there for them?
Correct, these are all shallow wells, so generally, I mean, if they even had to drill a deep well, that is a possibility. But yes, I mean, there are over 100 earth removal permits in Carver that have been granted. There has not been a widespread outbreak of dry wells to the best of my knowledge. Occasionally it does happen to individual wells, that has been an issue before, and we're perfectly willing to compensate the neighbors for that.
We mandate these water holes be dug wet and not pumped down. That's when we've run into issues in the past. It's a longer, more tedious process for the excavator, but that's the only way we're approving it, so we're entertaining it for approval.
Just
So-
a clarifying question. Does that agree
Do you
with
wanna-
the neighbors in writing that will be compensated? Is that part of the contract or?
It's part of the order of conditions that they would sign as part of the permit.
Okay.
Yep.
And your name, they didn't sign in,
Oh, sorry, Linda Jacobs.
Thank you,
You
Linda.
want me to sign in for the question?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
to make it
just to make it,
a process.
thank you so much, Linda.
Okay. I guess I'm looking for a motion to continue or to,
Hopefully have somebody.
please.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Terry, and I live at 84 Mayflower Road. I've never seen her, and that's my main concern.
Hold up, we can't hear with all the noise outside and the microphones.
What's your main concern?
Go ahead.
We've been here over 40 years, and we love Mayflower Road, and I'm very concerned about our well, very concerned. That's our main concern.
Okay,
I'm just afraid we might lose something.
okay,
I just wanted to let that, I am on Mayflower Road,
yeah.
and I think we are in a butter.
Were you one that was listed?
You're at
Did you get
84.
Did you get
I
enough
believe
butters
84 is on the
card?
butters list.
We have,
I believe they're notified of butter as well.
A notified butter?
Are they on the?
we have gotten
If they're
papers.
not on the list
We never
of
got anything.
compensated.
Yeah, so-
We should be on that.
All my previous communications have been with Dawn Egan, who's been representing
Yes.
several of the neighbors.
And she said we were on bond.
Correct, so we're agreeing to establish an escrow account.
Yep.
But she actually gave me the list of neighbors and addresses, so I can certainly revise that to add.
Please.
That's why we're having the public meeting to
Yeah.
get our.
Yeah.
I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very
That's
much.
84.
84 Mayflower Road.
84.
We sent out new certified.
Butters notices and,
Sorry about that, I didn't know you're supposed to be on the list. So,
That's all right.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so, with that said, I guess, Roger, I will make a motion to continue this public hearing for applicant Fruit Dior. Now, ADGA Real Estate. Mayflower Road, Carver, assessors, parcels 122-18, 122-10, 122-2, 122-4, and 5-2 to the next scheduled earth removal committee meeting proposed May 8th at 3:00 PM in this meeting room if it's available, with the understanding that the applicant, under its new name, will send out new abutters notices, correcting the parcel numbers in regards to the changes of truck traffic that this committee suggested. And under the new name.
Isn't the next meeting May 6th?
May 6th?
Yes.
Did I say June?
You said
May
May 8th.
Yeah, May 6th. You said May 8th.
I said May 8th, you told me May 8th. May 6th, that's what I had written.
I'm sorry.
Somebody
So
confused
we have a
me.
motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I make a motion to continue the public hearing with all the.
He made the motion.
Oh,
You want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor of continuing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I guess I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.